Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for coming. I already noticed some familiar faces from my last session, which is great. So the whole idea of having this seminar was I really want to talk you through what it means to use an online community as a research method. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to give you an overview of the method, and I want to give you some of the more practical pointers that you need to consider to make it work. And then I have a few examples of projects that we've conducted at Mustard along the way. So just a quick agenda of the day. As I said, what are online communities and why should we use them? And I'm going to talk you through some of the benefits that I hope when you're at the point of writing your research proposal, you'll also consider this method against any other method that you might have in mind. And hopefully some of these benefits will sway you towards using this as a research method. And then, as I said, I want to go through some of the more practical aspects from research design, recruiting your participants, writing your discussion guide, all the way to how the hell do we moderate an online community. And then there's going to be time for questions at the end. But as I go through this, if there's anything pressing that you want to ask, just ask. It's informal. You don't have to wait until the end. Right. So what are online communities and why should we use them? The simple definition that we give our clients when we write proposals is an online community is a qualitative platform for engaging with people and engineering discussion and collaboration. Participants are just one click away. They're ready and willing to share opinions and co-create. So this is a simple definition. And when online communities started to be used in research, they appeared as an emerging, innovative method, which was quite a few years ago. And they were presented against the more traditional methods like focus groups or depth interviews. But because we're now using social media platforms more and more, it's a habitual behavior that we have. We live in increasingly digitalized societies. So now online communities are becoming part of that traditional methods category. The GRIT report, which is an industry-wide report that's looking at the market research sector in total, and specifically at some of the methods that are being used, the one that they published at the end of last year put online communities up there in the top category of methods that are used by both agencies as well as in-house researchers. So it's about time we talk more and more about them and we understand how to use them successfully. Because how many of you are familiar with the concept or have worked on online communities? Just one? Two? Okay, before we go on and I talk you through the rest of the presentation, I have a short summary video that I want to show you to hopefully help you visualize what an online community is. And for that, I need to get out of presentation mode because of all the technical issues and just play it from here.
The key to a great online community has always been highly engaged participants. With this in mind, we create exciting, modern and engaging communities that encourage participation and in turn provide deep insights. Participants are drawn in by the simple, practical and intuitive interface. The adding of comments feels immediately familiar to users of social media. Any number of pictures and videos can be added, and when a comment is posted, pictures are displayed in an intelligent multi-photo frame, reminiscent of modern social media sites. Our video collection tools support native video creation and uploading on smartphones without the need for an app. Large numbers of comments can be viewed in the comment grid, which features one-click quick reply boxes that make replying easy. The interface is completely resolution independent and works as effortlessly on mobile phones as it does on tablets, laptops and desktops, ensuring the best user experience on any device. Of course, entering comments is just the beginning. Participants can quickly provide detailed information by completing polls or mini-surveys. Complete research diaries can be built around the survey form, allowing tracking of activities over days or weeks. Of course, these diaries can be completed with ease on a mobile device and include pictures and videos as needed. Interactive tools to collect opinions include heat maps that allow participants to comment on an image by simply pinning a comment onto it. For even more creative freedom, participants can be provided with a virtual pinboard that that allows them to use images, text and shapes to create collages or mood boards. Their creations become high-resolution virtual pieces of paper. Sometimes, rather than giving an opinion or answering set questions, you need participants to come up with ideas to solve a problem. This is commonly referred to as ideation. We can create communities that manage all stages of this process, from idea creation through to finalist selection, collection of ratings, and declaration of a winner. While in the community, topics that require attention are clearly signified with notification badges. A to-do ribbon indicates when a topic still requires an answer, and an unread section focuses in on comments from other participants and moderators that need attention. Rather than bombarding participants with notification emails, the platform simply packages up a list of everything that needs to be looked at and sends this in a single email at opportune times during the day. Hard-to-contact participants can complete their tasks on their phone through a link sent to them via SMS. People want to be involved in communities that are fun, communities that are engaging, communities that are accessible anywhere. These are the reasons they love to participate in our communities. Whether you need a community that runs for a couple of days, weeks, months or years, we can create something that has the power to delight and motivate your participants.
Right, so this is just to give you an idea of how an online community looks like. And it's safe to say that they look like that now, but they didn't used to look like that at the beginning. So with the development of technology and so on, and social media platforms are becoming more and more user-friendly. So now platform like online community providers are starting to use those tools to embed them into the online communities to make everything as habitual as and as intuitive as possible. So why use online communities when you could use focus groups or you could do depth interviews? The first and probably most important benefit is the fact that you have an extended consultation time with your participants. So if you think, for example, of an online community that lasts for 2 weeks where you have 10 people there, we would expect for that kind of length and that number of participants to have about 1.5 hours to 2 hours consultation time with each research participant. If you put that same number of people into a focus group that lasts an hour and a half, then you would get 15 minutes with each participant. So the difference is quite huge. Or you'd get 30 to 45 minutes with in a depth interview. So it's really getting this extended consultation time that allows you to build rapport with your participants, to get close to them, to live with them for the duration of, say, a week or 2 or 4 or more. So you really get that window into their lives. You're there with them in the moment as they experience the more mundane events, but also the more extraordinary ones. So that's one of the most important benefits that we have from online communities. It's also useful when it comes to geographical coverage. For example, if you're based in Manchester and you're working on a nationwide research project, you can have all those people and recruit them from different corners of the country as well as different corners of the world to take part in an online community. And it's a cost-effective way to get everybody in one place. As a research agency, we're commissioned by our clients to conduct research. So an added benefit for us is that they can get access to the community and be there as observers to the anonymized version of the community, and they can give us pointers, they can write comments, they can tell us, oh, maybe you should probe a little bit more there, or maybe that area is not that important. So you really can have a wide geographical coverage because everything is done online. Another benefit to take into account, and the other thing that I wanted to say in terms of geographical coverage is that there really is no limit. You can have 10 people on the online community, you can have 1,000. Obviously, for a qualitative project, we'd recommend capping that number. You don't really want thousands in there, but the idea is that it is possible to have as many as you want without having to go to another country or go to another city to conduct an interview. So that's quite useful. Now, an online community also allows people, it gives them time to think. So participants can have more elaborate responses. They can have more time to source materials if you want them to show you different aspects of their life. They can, start their answer now but complete it later. So you're going to get a bit more complex and complete responses from them. That's also useful from a moderation point of view, because sometimes in focus groups or in interviews, there are in the moment situations when there might be a misunderstanding, or you might not have enough time to process their reaction as a moderator, and you finish the focus group or the interview, and then while your brain is still processing what happened, you're like, oh, I should have asked them on that, or I should have probed them more on that area. So an online community gives you this time that you sometimes need. Now, it's also useful because, them having time to think is great because they give you more thought-through responses. But as with any qualitative research project, it's also important to unlock their emotions. It's also important to get to those raw, unfiltered reactions and responses to your questions. And the online community gives you that as well, because you can use all sorts of creative techniques and projective techniques, and I'll give you some examples later on, that would really unlock their emotional reactions and get them engaged on an emotional level, not only on a rational one as well. So it ticks both boxes from that point of view. It also gives you enough flexibility, and you can adapt to where the insight is taking you. Recently, we worked on a research project that was all about stop smoking campaigns in Greater Manchester. And the online community that we had lasted for 4 weeks. So when we wrote our discussion guide, we left week 4 blank on purpose. We were like, we don't want to plan for this because we want to allow ourselves with that time to adapt and to see what they're saying and where we should go. And you can never do that in a focus group or in a depth interview. So this is the right method if you want to have enough time for a more complete and more holistic approach to your research topic. Finally, we live at a point in time when we're suffering of information overload. It's just so difficult to process everything that's around us. And we see that with clients. So when we go to them with our research results, we really have to, work with data visualization and make sure that what we present is snappy and easy to digest. And what we do more and more through online communities is bring the research to life and ask participants to show us photos, to create mood boards like you saw in the video, to upload video recordings of themselves trying a product, answering a question, anything that makes it more personal. And then we use those in the report that we present to our clients. And let's be serious, it's much more impactful for them to hear it directly from their target audiences than directly from me. So that's something that the online community gives you the chance to do. And as a comparison, I worked on a project recently that was all about the private rented sector in Greater Manchester. We couldn't use an online community. We had to use focus groups. And one of the outputs was a video. The difficulties that we had stopping people after the focus group, oh, would you mind answering a question in front of the camera for us before you have to catch your train and do this and that? So it's really, they're in their environment, they do it when they want. And because the online community, the platform is created as a social media platform, they're naturally sharing these things because they're used to posting photos on Facebook. They're used to posting videos and stuff like that. So it comes naturally to them. There's no additional hoop to jump through. So that's from a research perspective. But beyond the research benefits, you also gain access to an incredible amount of data, as you'll see, but that's really high quality data that you get. And to get there, respondent engagement is key. And as you saw in the video, it's one way of getting that engagement is through this super interactive platform that's super fun and easy to use. But also, it gives you a chance to, as you'll see later on, to become their invisible friend. They're chatting to you on the online community. You're building trust. You're creating those relationships with them. You're getting personal, and that gets them to open up and give you the insight that you need. And that's particularly important for topics that are sensitive, that you just can't approach with 7 other people in the room, or through an interview with, you're a stranger if they do a phone interview with you. So here you build up to that moment when you have to ask the hard and the difficult questions. And that's something that we did in that Stop Smoking project, where we built that report with them, and they were just sharing and answering our questions. And the other thing that helps you get there is the fact that they answer everything from their own comfort zone, whether they're at home or, as you saw in the video, they're on holiday, they're commuting, they're on the tram, listening to music, not knowing what to do. That's when they start doing and answering your questions. And you can, depending on the project, you can target those questions depending on where they are. And that gives you access to that in-the-moment reaction rather than an artificial setting in a focus group. I was saying this to Lisa, we've just finished fieldwork for an international project that was all about music streaming behaviors. So we wanted to understand how people stream music. And because that's such a habitual thing, you can't access those in a rational way. People find it very difficult to answer these kind of questions. So we've asked them, you can set up different tasks like daily diaries and that they can do when they're commuting, when they're at work, when they're here, when they're there. And that makes them open up, and it gives you that authentic response that you need. And what I found is when they're engaged and, when you have a good topic and you use great methods, you will get this kind of responses from them. So just wanted to let you know that I'm really enjoying the Smoking Online community. It's great being able to see everyone's opinions, great to be able to put across my own. Everyone is so supportive. And this is not the only message that we had across the 4 weeks online community. We had people writing to us saying, oh, I've actually stopped, I haven't had a cigarette in the past 2 weeks ever since I started being engaged in this project. So it's not called a community for nothing. And especially with sensitive topics, it gives people this support that they might not get in other settings. This is from the one that we did on music streaming behaviors. This experience is very enriching. I really love to share my experience when it comes to music. It happens so rarely and it felt so good. So if it's a topic that people are interested in and you give them the right platform, they'll open up like a flower. And it's not only enriching for participants, it's also enriching for us. It really puts the fun, back into research. So on the music streaming project, we worked with a local moderator from Brazil, and this is what she said to us. It was one of the most interesting jobs that I did. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. And this is a comment that I sent to one of my project directors as I was moderating the online community in France, because it was just amazing, to talk to people and to see them respond and to hear them, share their reactions and their opinions. It's just something that's quite fascinating. So it's an enriching experience for us as researchers, not only for participants. And when you're engaged, then the quality of your data is also much better. So to sum up, it's really an exciting topic, the right creative methods, and an active moderator will make an online community an experience that's transformative for everybody involved. Right, so it sounds great, right? So how do we make it work? First and foremost, we start with recruiting the right participants. The way we do this, it doesn't differ too much from how we recruit participants for other qualitative projects, but there are a few specific things that we need to take into account when we do this. So because I work for a market research agency, normally what we do, we put together a recruitment screener, which is basically a mini questionnaire where we have all the profiling questions that we need, from gender, age, and other demographics to the more specific profiling things that we need for that particular project. And then we give it to our recruitment partners, because we always work with recruitment partners, and then they find the right people for us, whether it's using lists from our clients or they just go their panels, they have their own lists and their own ways of sourcing people. So that's easy peasy. That's something that we do for other projects as well. But there are, as I said, there are some specific things that we need to be careful with. And what's absolutely key is having a very clear introduction, because people need to understand what they're getting themselves into. And I have an example of an introduction on the following slide. So it's important for you to tell them for how long they'll be, first of all, what the method is, because they might be used with focus groups or interviews, but an online community, what is that? So you need to explain that in layman's terms. You also need to state the length of time that you want them to be engaged for. And also, so that introduction needs to have several hooks beyond the explanation of the online community. The first hook is the research topic, because you want people that resonate with what you're studying. If we had people that weren't into music, then we wouldn't have had like half of the insight that we had on that online community. So you need to phrase that in a way that makes them understand what you're researching, and they can say, oh, this is great music, I love it, I want to do this online community. So that's your first hook. The second hook, which is the more practical aspect, is money. Believe it or not, it's people's time. If they give you 1.5 to 2 hours of their time, sometimes even more, across two weeks or more, you need to pay them. And you need to mention that up front. If it's a long-term community, to keep people engaged, we would also factor in prizes like best comment or best respondent or best visual contribution or whatever, so that they're a bit more motivated to contribute. You need to cost for these when you write your proposal and you apply for your research grant, because it can be a lot of money depending on the number of participants that you have in. So don't forget to include this. And finally, you want people that are not only engaged, but also that can give you more, complex and articulate responses. Sometimes for us, when we work on projects and we go to a panel provider that has like a big panel of people, and they're also used to completing online surveys, for example, which are closed questions, yes or no, we don't want those people. So we need to be able to filter them and get, the ones that are a bit more, that give you more complex responses. And for that, we'd add a creative question, and I'll show you an example of that. So an example of an introduction, as I said, this is from our smoking project. You tell them what you're researching, you explain what you want them in for. This is just an example. You can use your own words to explain what you're doing. From when until when, what they'll have to do, their time commitment, how much they're getting. This is just indicative. I think we ended up offering people more money. I don't think at the moment £50 is enough for 4 weeks. So just make sure you adapt that as well. And then, because we're a market research agency, we have to mention that we abide by the Market Research Society Code of Conduct. In your case, it can be whatever codes of conduct you have. So simple, with all the information that they need. An example of a creative question, we did, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, I worked on an online community that was all about ketchup. We spent 2 weeks talking about ketchup, and it was a lot of fun. To get to the right people, we had to ask them at the end, if you had 3 items to pick from your fridge that matched your personality, which one would they be and why? So these are some of the examples of people that we ended up selecting on the online community, because we knew, look at this answer. It's quite a, juice cheese because it's strong flavored, loved by everyone, something my boyfriend can't live without, jelly because it can be wobbly. So this is the kind of people that we want. This is the kind of people that we don't. And also we had the in-betweeners that only said eggs, chocolate, cheese. Well, we also asked you why. So if you're ignoring half of my question, then it doesn't really inspire any confidence that you'll be able to answer all of the questions on the community. Sometimes you have to get those in-betweeners as well on there, but this is a good indication for you to see, okay, this looks like an engaged person, and this looks like one that's not going to contribute too much. Equally, for the music streaming one, we asked, it wasn't a creative question, we simply asked them, why do you want to take part? And we had people who gave us really long responses telling us how music changed their lives and they can't live without it, and other people who just said money. So we had to, it was easy for us to make a decision based on their responses. So that's getting the right participants. Then we have to design our discussion guide. And there's a few pointers that I want to give you here. It's not very different from how you design a discussion guide for a project that involves focus groups or depth interviews. But there are a few things that I think are important. And the first one is you need to keep it snappy and simple. When they go onto the platform, they will see your questions as a form that they need to fill in. For that reason, you need to keep some things for yourself. Don't ask too many questions at once, because if you ask too many, there will be some questions that are unanswered. As you saw on this example, even with these two, they still left the second part unanswered. So you need to be smart with how you prioritize the questions that you're asking up front. Once they submit their answer, they get onto the community, and that's where you start your moderation. So allow yourself plenty of probes that you can then use to engage with them and to find out more about their response. And plenty of them, because you don't want to ask, they see everything that's going on unless you make it hidden or private. And you don't want to ask the same question to everybody. So you want to adapt to the type of response that they give you. So try to anticipate and use those as probes. Obviously, like with any qualitative project, avoid the yes or no question. But that's particularly important with this, because if you have a yes or no question in that form, that's all they're going to say, except for the super engaged talkative ones. But you'll still get those, yes. Do you like to stream music? Yes. And that's it. So you don't want that. You want a bit more. So try as much as possible to avoid them. In an online community, as you'll see later on, the introduction is the most important one, because that gives you the opportunity to set the scene, to make them feel heard and comfortable, and a very important piece in this whole research project. And as you'll see in the example, this is something that if you have 5 people, if you have 1,000 people, you need to moderate every single response, because otherwise that person whose presence wasn't acknowledged, they can be an amazing respondent, but later on they won't say anything. Set challenges. That's something that you can do, and you can be as bold as you want with an online community. To give you the more basic ones are, you want to maybe tell them to share with you some newspaper clippings about, I don't know, depending on the topic that you're researching, maybe some ads that they found interesting, or a piece of brand communication that they found impactful. So you can ask them to share that with you. What we did on the music streaming online community was one of the coolest things that I've done so far. We used the withdrawal technique. I don't know if you've used it before. So in one of the days we selected people, all of them were supposed to be medium or heavy users of a music streaming platform, so the likes of Spotify and so on. So we asked them on a day to not use any music streaming. And you're taking a habit away from people, and that hurts. We were inspired by another agency that used the withdrawal technique in a much more horrendous way. They took serious hardcore gym addicts, so people who go to the gym on a regular basis and they're crazy about bodybuilding and stuff, and they said to them, for a week, you're not going anywhere. So they had to hire a therapist on the side to, be with them, and the transformation that you see in people and the emotional reactions that you get with this technique are amazing. You'd never get to them in another, in a focus group or in an interview. And you can use the online community to get them to diarize their experience. And that's what we did with the music streaming platform. And we combined it with a mobile ethnography app as well. But we had messages saying I hate this, I feel punished, I'm punishing my children because they can't use YouTube. So this kind of very raw reactions. And this gives you the right framework to do it, because it's for a week or 2 weeks, and you get that. You're there with them as they're experiencing this. I'll show you some of the features that you can also use on platforms like this, which again unlock their creativity and more of their emotional reactions. So make sure you use those as well, and definitely encourage them to share audiovisual material. So some examples. This is, again, an example of a warm-up discussion. So week 1, discussion 1. It can be anything. Make sure it's not related to your topic, because it's something, especially if your topic is a sensitive one. Tell me a bit about yourself, what do you like, your family life, your work, fun stuff that people like to do. And as I said, make sure you moderate this. With the smoking project, it happened naturally. People started posting photos of their children, of like themselves in the garden. So it's just, if they do that, it's a sign that, right, they're comfortable and they're ready to share and be engaged. This is another example of a topic. So again, this was from the smoking project. This came a little bit later in the week, so it wasn't the first thing that they saw after the introduction. It's quite it's snappy, but it's not very snappy. But by this point, they were already engaged and responding. So these are the type of questions that we ask them up front. So how many times have you tried smoking? What motivated you? Methods? How long do you typically manage to stay smoke-free, and so on? And then we had a list of further probes that we used, and that, depending on their answers, we selected 1 or 2 to keep them engaged and keep them going. And the way I don't have a screenshot of the community, but the way the community is set up, you have like all the analysis and all the responses on one side, and then on the left you have the discussion guide, and it's split between what respondents see and what your further probes are. So you don't even actually need that paper copy of your discussion guide. So just to show you some of the features or tools that you can use to get them to be a bit more creative. There's quite a few of them. I want to show them to you, but when you select them, don't go overboard. You don't want to use all of them, maybe 1 or 2, that should do it. So one thing that you can use is a heat map. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the tree-man exercise. Is basically a tree full of different figures that each reflect a different emotional state. So we used to use that when you want to get their emotional reaction to something. How does this make you feel, or something like that? And then they can use the heat map tool to select the character that they resonate with. Or if you're testing packaging or an ad or an invoice, you can show that to them, and they can click on the things that they like and explain why, but also the things that they don't like and explain why. So that's one of the things that you can do. You can use online diaries, which is something that we use for the music streaming one. We ask them, at any point in time when you stream or you listen to music, tell us, and it worked. Like, it becomes something that they just do. Mood boards, again, it's something that if you want to have that additional visual element to your project, it's definitely something that you can do. I remember I sat once in a presentation of from an agency who did a research project that was all about attitudes to Brexit or something like that. And they used this quite well, because people started showing like clippings from newspapers and magazines and anything really, and then you're left with a nice visual output that you can show in your reports. Many times we test concepts, whether it's products or whether it's adverts or campaigns, and you can use a pin board so that they say, again, what they like and what they dislike. The good thing with the online communities is, although it's a qualitative platform, you can also quantify things if you have enough people. So for us, when we did the smoking project, because we had 90 people there, we also asked a few more closed questions. Or when we tested 4 different campaigns, and we asked them, which one did you like the most, which one did you find most impactful, and then we quantified those as well, because 90 people is a robust enough base size to also report quantitatively. And as I said before, clients have access to this as well, and they can see what you're doing. Other features are, so if you have more sensitive topics, or if you feel like probing further with just one person, but you don't want the rest to see, you can have a one-to-one discussion rather than a group one. You can mark that as private, so you're covered from a lot of points of view as well. They can do drag and drop if you show them different logos, for example, or if you show them, as I said, concept testing, they can vote on the things they like. So it's quite engaging, pressing buttons, moving stuff around, which is something that people like. And this was the example of the heat map. So we did a project for Dragonfly, and they were supposed to like highlight the things that they liked about the packaging, or that they found clear or unclear. We tested a bunch of invoices for one of our clients, and this was the old version, this is the newer, so you can see the evolution in terms of, features and colors. So they can highlight it, and also they can explain, oh, I like this, but I don't like that. So it's really, you can get to that level of detail as well. So these are some of the features that you can use. When it comes to moderation, there are a few things that we need to take into account. What we found with our project is that we really have to become, their invisible friend. Sometimes maybe not that invisible, because I think on projects, we used to have like an intro. When we did the intro with participants, we also had an intro of ourselves, whether it's a video where you introduce yourself, or a photo of yourself and a little bit of your bio and what your interests are, because it levels the playing field. You're talking from like, an equal level, rather than you, the researcher authority, and them, the participants. And becoming that invisible friend will really help you to build those relationships and get to the level of insight that you need. Use informal language, don't use any kind of jargon, and replicate the social media behavior. Use emojis, use, photos, make it fun, because if it's fun, assuming your topic allows it and it's not a very serious or sensitive thing. But I do encourage you to really replicate what you do on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media platforms you're doing. Your respondents are doing the same thing, so make sure they connect. And also, we have a discussion guide, but it's okay to deviate from it, and the community allows you that flexibility. If your intuition as a researcher says, well, this is an area that's interesting for me to explore, do it. Because in this setting, they sometimes give you nuggets of information. They sometimes don't articulate them very well, and you need to probe them further until you get to what you need. And the community gives you the time to do that, whereas a focus group will not. So when you moderate, yeah, you have your guide, but it's also, feel free to move away from it as well. So what we found is, if you have participants that are engaged, you're using creative techniques, you're good moderators, or you're all over the community, they will generate, and together you will generate an incredible amount of data. And just to put some numbers behind that, the online community that we did for the smoking project, 4 weeks, 90 people, these are the numbers. So, over 600 page community Word exports, over 200 hours of consultation. We ended up speaking with, on average, over 2 hours with each respondent. That's on average. Other people spend way more time speaking to us. So you're left with an incredible amount of data. And then it's time to write their stories. And that's a topic for another time, because I could speak for a full hour about that.